Okay, it's 3:30. We're back. This is our discussion with county legislators before the upcoming legislative session. I think we have a few discussion points that we want to hit, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion. Just a note, the offer of attendance was extended to all local delegates and senators. We had numerous dates offered to all delegates and senators. We wanted to work with them. Unfortunately, Delegate Doyle and Senator Unger could not be accommodated on any of these dates, so they will not be joining us. So I'll wrap it up. Stephanie, do you want to just hit the few points that we talked about earlier?
Sure.
Senator Rucker and Delegate Espinosa.
So the first one is an issue that probably, and you may not, because I know you get hit with people asking you to address a whole bunch of legislative issues, but pretty late in the session last year, we had an issue with our Parks and Rec department and them being exempt from the DHHR regulations governing child care facilities. They were forcing our Parks and Rec to obtain a child care license. And, you know, the money for that is one thing, but then there are a whole list of requirements or regulations that they would have to comply with in order to even qualify for that. I believe that the legislature did try to exempt programs like Parks and Rec from these requirements when they updated the enabling legislation a couple of years ago. But the regulations themselves, the code state rules themselves, do not, I mean, they're not included in the definition that would be exempt. So it actually doesn't require, I think, a code section fix, so you could update the code. It actually requires a revision of the code of state rules, because I think that the language in the code section pretty much says that it's exempt. And when I first started researching, I thought, well, they're exempt, what are they using? And then when I dug deeper into the code of state rules, I noticed that it's because the language in the definitions does not exempt them. They're not included in those definitions that are exempt. I have, and I'm not sure if Sandy sent this out to everyone or if she just sent it out to Delegate Clark, but I have created a revision to the Code of State Rules that would suffice to exempt them. And I think this is not just a Jefferson County issue. I think there are probably other Parks and Rec programs. I know that our local DHHR is enforcing this rule with them because they received a complaint from another child care facility. But you know, our Parks and Rec on summer camps, and a lot of people who don't need year-round child care but do need it when school is in session, use those summer camps as a type of child care, and it's pretty affordable. It's probably the most affordable child care you'll find in this area. So it's just a quick fix, like I said, not even really to the code section, but just to the rules itself.
So I'm happy to respond briefly to that if you like. I did receive an email from Jennifer Myers of Parks and Rec, and she had passed along the draft legislation, and I have submitted that to bill drafting for introduction. Okay. So we'll be happy to talk to you a little bit more about that, just to make sure we get it crafted. But I kind of mixed it in probably the final rush of things last year, but happy to see if we can get it. Just to give you a little sense, and first, Mr. President and members of the commission, great to be here. Delegate Clark and Senator Rucker and I, we're happy to be here and always hear your perspective on issues that are likely to come up before the legislature. But just to give you a little sense, if I may, you know, none of us obviously knows what the pandemic is going to hold for us. You know, we're certainly both on the House and Senate side, we're taking as many precautions as we can to help ensure that we can actually meet for the full 60 days. But we've already got some reports from some legislatures around the country that have had to suspend their sessions because of COVID outbreaks and so forth. You know, in the House, we're doing you know, as much as we can. We're trying to do social distancing. We do have a mask requirement on the floor of the House, and we're allowing members who feel like they need more space to, you know, actually vote and participate in the legislative process from the balconies in the galleries, rather, in the House. And Senate's obviously a little easier because you're not dealing with quite as many members. But again, we're going to very much prioritize what we're doing. I mean, we've in the House, and I think we're very close with the Senate and the governor's office. You know, I'd say we probably have about 15 or 20 really priority bills that we're going to just really right out of the blocks, you know, starting on February 10th and February 11th, when we get down to Charleston, try to really make sure we get those priority items, the things that we think are going to have the greatest impact on West Virginia. We're going to try to take those on first. We will obviously try to get to secondary and third tier bills as well, but a lot of that, again, is just going to depend on where we are with the pandemic. And again, we're very hopeful. I know a lot of members, have taken advantage of the opportunity to be vaccinated and so forth. A lot of our staff have as well, but again, we just don't know for sure. So we're approaching it very serious, and we're prioritizing and going to work that priority list. But we'll try to get to some of these other items as we can. We'll try to have the legislation in place so that if we're lucky and we're able to meet for the full 60-day section or most of it, then obviously we'll try to get as many of these other items as we can. I haven't, and again, I apologize, I really haven't had a chance to confer with Senator Rucker or Delegate Clark about that legislation, but I have actually introduced it well, I've submitted it for pre-introduction, and we'll obviously get that introduced just as soon as I get it back from bill drafting, which hopefully should be very soon. Thank you.
The other issue that I wanted to talk about, and this has been a legislative issue for the past several years. And last year, the bill actually did pass, and that's the Airbnb bill that would require the facilitators to collect our local hotel motel tax. I spoke with Annette Gavin yesterday about that bill, and she's actually joined us here today. I think they actually have 3 bills that tourism is interested in, but the first one is the Airbnb bill. That funds our CBD. Tourism is a very big industry, especially in this county. I believe we make up the most, the biggest piece of the pie for tourism as a state as a whole here in Jefferson County. And so, the CBD does a great job marketing us, and that is phenomenal. And, so the Airbnb hosts are benefiting from the hotel motel tax directly because they're getting that marketing that the bulk of the hotel motel tax provides, but they're not paying it. And it's on the host to collect it. And, so it puts the host in the position of someone coming to their Airbnb and then saying, oh, wait, you also owe me an additional 12%. It's also a fairness issue for the hotels. The hotels are currently obviously paying the hotel motel tax. So as you know, the Airbnbs are already required to pay the tax. It's just that Airbnb is not collecting the tax on their end. And so I have Annette here. If you want to say anything more about this from there, the state is looking at, feel free to jump in if it's okay with the commissioners.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much. I will move by this pretty quickly. Thanks, Stephanie, for a great summary. I do know that Senator Rucker and Delegate Espinosa both have a lot of background regarding Airbnb bill, and Delegate Clark, I'm happy to have any discussions anytime with you regarding it. So as Stephanie said, the reason it's important to have this bill last year, the bill got through the House and Senate, and both sides, we were able to navigate that bill and we got it passed. The problem was that there was a veto on the bill by the governor because of a technical issue. And the technical issue was the way that the tax was going to be remitted from the state tax department and back to the localities. So there was a technical issue, and this year we thought we'd start really early. So we did during COVID last year, during summer, and tried to answer the governor's message on the veto. And working with, at that time, the tax commissioner, Staggers, out of the office, we discussed all the issues with it. And to be quite frank, the tax department at that time wasn't prepared to handle the tax at that time. And we talked through it. So we worked on the bill, again, during COVID, ready to get it right out the gate. We will have a final opinion about whether we will be doing that remittance through the state tax, or whether that remittance from the marketplace facilitator, like Airbnb, HomeAway, all of those, will be remitting to the localities. Frankly, I can't speak for everyone, but I think most of you would agree that it would make a lot more sense if it went directly back to the localities. Tomorrow we will have an opinion from the governor's office and the state tax department if they support that end of it. So once session starts, Delegate Espinosa, Delegate Clark, and Senator Rucker, and I will talk to the others, we should hear from Chelsea Ruby and the governor's office and the tax office on where they stand with that. As maybe some of you know, the tax commissioner has retired as of last week and is no longer heading the office. They have an acting commissioner. So I think we'll see where that goes. But it is a very important bill. And as you all know, Jefferson County was ranked second in the collection for the entire state, only second to Pocahontas. And we believe we're leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table by not having that tax collected on the platform and remitted back. So it's not a new tax. It's important to understand that it is a tax the visitor is used to paying. It's a tax to the visitor. And it, like Stephanie said, it goes back and it supports not just CVBs who act as your DMOs to bring people to the area, but it also supports your Parks and Rec, historic landmarks, Jefferson Arts Council. And that's why it's really important that across the state, there are a lot of entities like that. So we would appreciate the Jefferson County Commission support of that bill. The second bill is a CVB oversight piece. This is legislation that came out of Chairman Maynard's office on the Senate side. Last year, believe it or not, he had very frank conversations with us about the fact that he represents Mingo County, and there are 5 CVBs in Mingo County. That should never happen. We, as a CVB association, agree that there shouldn't be this proliferation of CVBs. There shouldn't be so many of them in one small area. So that being said, we worked together with him and both GovOrg on the House side and GovOrg on the Senate side and their staffers to come up with understanding who CVBs are, what they do, and what would be an ideal piece of legislation that would really enhance the performance and accountability of the Convention and Visitors Bureaus, bring them up to a level that make them more professional. And also, I personally believe there's a big need in the whole state to pull CVBs together more so that we are more efficient and that may be more effective because of the use of tax dollars. So that piece of legislation that both West Virginia Association of CVBs and West Virginia Hospitality and Travel are supporting. And I understand that there will be a bill that will come out on both sides, the House and the Senate side. And I hope that our delegation can help me keep an eye on that bill, since I won't be down there as much, but it's important, and I think the work we do is important. So I'm happy to share some talking points and oversight. I did share it with Stephanie and also the association's annual report, and I would be happy to share that with anybody. And Delegate Clark, I will make sure you get that by email as well. And then the last thing that the Hospitality and Travel and CVB Association is working on is some alcohol reform, and that is with the governor's office. And it's really important that, you know, during COVID, I think we all saw a lot of relaxation of ABC rules and regulations, and, you know, the sky didn't fall in, right? There were a lot of things that we did that was probably just made a whole bunch more sense. And we did it because we were trying to be friendlier to businesses, and we were trying to think outside of the box on how we were able to navigate during COVID. Well, because of that, and because we have some really good leadership that's been watching that, they've made a lot of calls to the governor, and the governor is personally looking at a piece of legislation that would relax a lot of those regulations and help to be more friendly towards business. And I think all of us would agree that makes a lot of sense. So we are meeting with ABC next week to talk about some of that. And I started to reach out to some of my partners and seeing what really worked and what helped them during COVID. And Delegate Clark, you as a business owner, I'd love to hear if there was something that you think in particular that happened during ABC when they relaxed some of those regulations. I look forward to any feedback that you have too that would help with that. And those are the big three that we're working on, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I would really just appreciate the commission's support on all of those bills.
This is a side, wine and liquor tax saved our county budget during COVID, so.
I was going, yeah, true.
That's true. We got a significant amount. I mean, some of the legislation changed, but it was a windfall that we were not expecting. And so we did not have as much of a loss because of the wine and liquor tax.
So the healthcare costs aren't spiking it.
Well, happy to weigh in on these items very quickly, and I'm sure, I know Delegate Clark will as well. With Airbnb, obviously, I've been an advocate for that legislation and was disappointed, obviously, with the technical veto, but, you know, those technical vetoes, at least those are surmountable. I mean, you can hopefully fix what the issue is and get that straightened out. And I know that looking forward to meeting with Annette and Christian is awesome, and Carol Folks with the hospitality group there, and myself are scheduled to meet with Chairman Brandon Steele, who is the new chair of House Government Organization. Brandon is an attorney, and I haven't actually had an opportunity to speak with him about this, but Delegate Steele is just a really good common sense individual, and I'm sure he will look at it very closely and help us understand, you know, what, from a legal perspective, you know, what perhaps we need to really look at, and can hopefully assist us with just making sure we have a piece of legislation that everybody can be happy with. So looking forward to participating in that. That's Tuesday morning, so Senator Rucker, if you're, I suspect you'll be right in the throes of things pretty quickly here. So if you'd like to join us, we're meeting at 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning in Gov.org, House Gov.org, if you're available. And same thing with you, Doug Clark, depending on when you're getting down to Charleston. As far as CBB legislation, I'm really not familiar with that, but perhaps in that, when we get down to Charleston on Tuesday, we can maybe share some bullets on that. Happy to take a look at that. We want to understand. I always like to know who might oppose a piece of legislation when it's proposed, when it's offered. I'd be interested to hear what some of the smaller CBBs think about that, where I think it certainly would make sense for the larger CBBs like the Jefferson County CBB. We have to really gauge what the impact is on the municipal CBBs. 5 CBBs in a county, I think we all could agree that's too much, but the devil will be in just determining what is the right number and what is the effect. How many small CBBs are going to be adversely affected by that? And Delegate Clark and I did meet along with Chairman Steve Westfall. We met with Commissioner Wooten back when we were in Charleston for our organizational meeting back in early January. And I'm absolutely an advocate. I know Delegate Clark and Senator Rucker are advocates for making permanent as many of these flexibilities that we've implemented during the pandemic. I think if there's one good thing from the pandemic, it's that we've demonstrated that some of these regulations are just really not needed. And obviously we want to make sure that whatever area of government activity we have, we obviously want to make sure we're protecting the public. But I mean, some of the restrictions that we've had in place, I mean, there's obviously not really a basis for it. And again, we've been able to demonstrate that we've been able to remove these regulations. The sky is not falling. And actually, it's been great for our constituents to be able to just have additional freedom and share some of the flexibility that I think is commonplace in other counties, and that's, or other states rather. And that's one of the things we really focused on, and just some of our discussions with ABCA Commissioner Wooten was, again, we want to provide those flexibilities. You know, the mixed drinks in a bag or a kit type thing, which a lot of our surrounding jurisdictions allow. You know, that's still been kind of a sticking point. And I know Delegate Clark can speak to, again, some of the flexibilities that he's been able to his customers have been able to benefit from there at his establishment. So I feel very confident. I do understand we have gotten a draft ABCA bill. Chairman Steele it'll likely go through his committee. I'm sure typically those type of pieces of legislation go through judiciary where Chairman Rucker serves. But I think we will enjoy broad bipartisan support for just, again, providing more freedom, flexibility, just common sense regulation that's been demonstrated to work here during the pandemic. So I'll stop there.
Anything to add, Senator Rucker?
I mean,
Paul did a pretty good job.
yeah, you've done a great job. So, I mean, I think Annette knows I'm in favor of all of those measures. And obviously the co-sponsor of the alcohol monetization bill that I was very disappointed did not make it through the House a couple years ago. So I'm looking forward to see what will be included in this one. And when it comes to the Parks and Rec issue, the same thing that Delegate Espinosa said, we got it near the end of last year's session. There really wasn't enough time, but I actually did help try to draft a bill that has to do with, you know, who should be exempted from that, and that was actually my bill way back. So I'm happy to, of course, clarify what the definition is, and it's one of the reasons for why I'm happy to serve in rulemaking review, because that's where the details, you know, happen. So I'm glad to do whatever I can. So no worries. I'm sure.
Yeah. Anything, Delegate Clark, you want to add to any of this?
Well, obviously, I'm 100% for the relaxed ABC regulations continuing, Airbnb and the hotel motel tax staying locally, absolutely. Obviously, assistance from the CVB is important to not only me, but other businesses that are here in the Eastern Panhandle that rely on tourism. So everybody else pretty much answered everything, and I'm just in support of everything that's going around. Annette, I'd love to, you know, if I'm able to sit in with you with the your meeting that you have coming up with ABC, and just hopefully everything gets done.
I know, I think this portion will open up to county commissioners, and we'll just go back and forth real quick. I just have one thing quickly that may tie into the ABC stuff. Have you guys ever thought about mimicking what Virginia does with agritourism, where it absolves them from liability at like breweries and stuff? Because they do pretty good with that. I feel there's like 10 new breweries in Loudoun County like every other week, pre-COVID.
So
But-
just so you know, the agritourism bill that I got passed in 2017, and I know Delegate Espinosa supported, it does include distillery, wineries.
Yeah.
The problem was our alcohol regulation. So they are already protected under the agritourism bill.
Yeah.
If any distillery wanted to open up in Jefferson County, they have, I mean, it is broad liability protection.
Yeah.
And they're also exempted from, I would say, excessive building codes regulations and other things. But yeah, we need to really, I mean, I don't want to say the word relax. So all of our legislation that has to do with non-intoxicating beverages
Yeah.
is really antiquated, and it really is meant to protect monopolies. And so I've been pushing for us to, you know, fix that, and I'm really hopeful that we'll get a lot done. We probably aim for too much in that modernization act, but whatever we can do. And in terms of the distilleries, thank you for bringing it up, because while Annette was talking, I was thinking, Annette, I hope you guys will take advantage while you're down there and you're talking about these things to remind the governor that he promised he was going to help with this distillery issue, because it is a huge thing for our area that we are missing out on. And it's a $4 billion tax industry in Virginia. So
You drive down Route 9 and you get slapped in the face right when you see welcome to Virginia wine country. I mean, we're like right over the border and have the same landmass and geography and everything. We have like
well,
two.
the agritourism bill that I passed was modeled on Virginia's. So I did as much as I could in one piece of legislation, but again, could not really, I mean, just came across that alcohol regulations that we have.
Even like looking at, even looking at like breweries trying to get off the ground, what can we do? I feel like it's so easy over there in Virginia. Granted, there's a lot of money behind some of those, which helps, but still, I mean, it's just a lot easier.
It is a
There's a
lot.
reason you see like 50 on one side of the border and like 2 on the other side.
It's a lot easier, the permitting and the tax structure. I mean, again, all of those things are things we have to look into. They have like 20 cider distilleries over in Virginia, and we've got 2 in the state of West Virginia.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
One of the things that I don't think is in the governor's bill that's been drafted with obviously under the auspices of the ABCA, really, I don't think, just in my quick read of it, I don't think there was really anything with regard to hours, days and hours and so forth. I think that's always put us at a bit of a disadvantage. And, while certainly we're going to have to kind of gauge, where our members are, hopefully that determines whether you get a bill across the finish line. I suspect there's going to be strong support for trying to make sure that our retail hours are, comparable to Virginia, for example. And so, I requested during Wayne and my meeting along with Chairman Westfall with Commissioner Wooten, had asked him to get us some data on, what our surrounding states do as far as, retail hours and so forth. And we are committed to trying to make sure that we're competitive with our surrounding jurisdictions so that we don't put our businesses at a disadvantage. I will say that I was very pleased to play a leadership role in getting our craft beer legislation enacted a few years ago. And as a result, we've seen just an explosion in the number of those brew pub licenses and so forth. Obviously, we see here in Jefferson County a lot of great brew pubs and so forth. We do have this 3-tiered system here in West Virginia, and a lot of our businesses, in complying with that law over the years, they have invested significant sums in licenses in order to be exclusive retailers for liquor in particular, in some of these establishments. And so, I think that's something you always got to balance. And I know in just talking with the spirits industry and also the beer and wine wholesalers, again, they're very supportive of trying to provide some of the amenities that our surrounding jurisdictions, find as commonplace. But at the same time, they certainly want to be treated fairly. And again, if you put yourself in the shoes of one of those liquor retailers, if you've spent, I don't know what those licenses are going for now, they put them out for bids, but probably in excess of $100,000 or more. I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but I know it's pretty sizable. If you have invested and won the bid for what is essentially a relatively exclusive license to sell retail liquor, you're understandably a little concerned, when somebody goes behind that, the legislature tries to go behind that, and basically after you've already, put down the money to acquire that exclusive license, to open that up too much. So again, I think that's some of the balancing we got to do, but certainly want to try to, as much as we can, provide a good customer experience that doesn't put us at a disadvantage of our surrounding states.
Gotcha. And I'm gonna go to Commissioner Tab now because she's remote.
Yes, I would just like to echo some of the comments about agritourism and the alcohol industry. We are missing the boat. I mean, you just have to drive down Route 9. I've been down near Charlottesville, Virginia, and it is like every mile there's a winery, and I think that is an excellent way to invest in our rural area and bring some profitability to farmers in a new way. And I hope the legislation can be, or the regulations can be tailored so that those operations can be more viable, because it is a huge investment. But that's my 2 cents on that one.
Commissioner Stalford, anything?
No, I agree. I ran on this issue. Why do these breweries stop at our border? And I'd like to figure out what we can do. And it might be an alcohol licensing issue. It could be a county zoning issue. I can tell you right now that we had a event venue at the planning commission 2 weeks ago, that lo and behold, there were people opposing it. There's some of the same people opposed to solar. They're opposing the event and using the same people opposed Rockville too. So they want to oppose everything in this county, it seems like. And then there's also another wedding venue that was approved by the BCA. I'm not sure where that was, Nathan, in Shepherdstown, Harpsbury area, I think. And that's my understanding that they're going to appeal that. Somebody wants to appeal that now because, but that's the kind of things that we want to create here, but we're hitting these roadblocks here on the planning side. So, or they're going to be appealed perhaps. But the one at the planning commission did pass. I think it passed unanimously. But the one that went to the BCA, I think it might be appealed. So it's unfortunate because there's a lot of, Loudoun County, they net $400 million a year in Loudoun County. So if we could get 25% of that, would be great.
Well, you know, and it does take time. You have to put in a lot of investment in the beginning, and you're not going to get anything until, you know, much later. So you have to make it possible for them to be able to actually get this done in a secure environment where the laws are not going to be constantly changing, you know, also helps. I can tell you that one of the businesses near you, Steve, they actually grow hops, and they were not allowed to actually do anything with those hops here in the state of West Virginia. They're selling them to places all up and down the East Coast, these specialty hops that they need for some of these craft brews, but the regulations do not allow them to actually be used and processed in West Virginia. Like, that is the most ridiculous thing. So, and that's right here from Jefferson County. I would love to see us definitely get this done. I do want to point out that one of the things that constituents have reached out to me with having trouble here in Jefferson County, just to bring it to your awareness, is the fire code and zoning issues. They have buildings that they would like to renovate and use, and they're not getting the permits to be able to get that done. So just whoever here is, you know, involved in that. I just want to bring up several constituents that brought that up.
We talked about some of that today as far as like people like inspecting and so forth, and it's becoming a massive headache for some of these businesses. We talked about it today at the county commission meeting. So we're on top of that. We will be on top of that. We need to be as easy as possible to start a business or renovate or expand a business here. It just doesn't seem to be the case right now. Any other topics besides this?
I want to add to that. We did voted unanimously to create an email hotline, or if somebody has a problem, it will go to all the commissioners and our county administrator. So we will know what the problem is.
Would you share that with us so that when constituents reach out to us, or able to?
Yes, if they're having a problem, it's a hotline that.
Okay.
And like I said earlier in a meeting earlier today too, that a lot of times when I talk to people, because I've been on the planning commission for a long time, they just think they can walk in and I hand them a check for $25 for get a permit and they're done. They don't know there's a process. So some of these complaints that I've gotten over the years are just people that grew up here, lived here, own a couple acres for a long time, and they just thought they could just, they didn't think it was a process. So
Well,
part of it is just known as a process.
yeah, I just want you to know, like in these couple of cases of constituents, I mean, it is people who actually have tried to follow all of the steps. So just, you know, I think Delegate Clark wanted to say something.
Delegate.
Yeah, I just want to point out a couple things. It's not just ABC reform that we got to look at. We also got to look at the county and the city. I'll give you an example. Everybody knows about Harper's Ferry Brewery that's right across the river from us. They could not open the way they are set up now in the city of Charlestown because they have to have a 3-compartment sink. They have to have a 1,000-gallon grease trap. Those are things that are required by ABC. Those are required by Chesapeake Bay Watershed just for them to get their food license so they can then apply for their ABC license. So there's multiple levels of adjustments that we got to make so that we can bring businesses like that in our area.
I agree.
Commissioner Jackson, do you have any new issues to discuss?
Not new issues, I'm trying to wrap my mind around. So Annette, are you saying, I guess I'm trying to understand Airbnb, the tax. So on the honest the honor system that people that start an Airbnb collect a tax? It can't be built. So when you register with Airbnb website for their advertisement to say in our geographic area, there's nothing that automatically or that it's on the person to populate to say, here's the local tax, or how is that managed? I guess I'm trying to understand.
Sure. No. It totally makes sense. Believe it or not, Airbnb and any marketplace facilitator, it could go across the board to even like HomeAway, VRBO, any of those. The way the system is set up right now, it's not on the platform to charge the local tax. During session last year, so it changed a couple of years ago. Delegate Espinosa and Senator Rucker can tell you that there was language written in legislation changed a couple of years ago to get the state sales tax on there because it wasn't even current. It wasn't formerly on there. Now that is on there on the platform, just like when you go to a hotel for like Expedia, the taxes are on the platform. Currently, the taxes are not on the platform for these marketplace facilitators. And during session last year, when we kept bringing that up, Airbnb went in and turned on the switch on the back end, and some very savvy hosts were able to figure out how to go on the back end of it and add it so that it did appear in the total amount. But it is, one, not transparent, even if they did that, and two, most of them didn't do it. So currently, if you have a really good accountant in the county, or you just happen to know, or you're involved in our CVB and you understand it, you are backing out the tax out of the amount you're receiving and sending that in. So because you want to do the right thing. So I'm not. So the problem currently is the tax isn't charged and collected right at point of sale on the platform. And what we are asking for is the legislation to make sure that it's right there, charged and collected, and then remitted back to the localities.
So when someone registers, so if I was going to turn my basement into an Airbnb, when I register, I have to register as a business with the Secretary of State's office? Does it have to be registered separately?
It should be. It should be. And that could be the other issue too. Or the county, you need to be right. You need to be registered as having an Airbnb, a short-term rental.
Was it do the property taxes of that
Well,
house?
that's what
Proportion of
Yeah,
property
because now a
taxes?
portion of your house is.
That is a whole load of things
Different
that,
classification.
so I get, Commissioner Hudson, do you have anything? The only thing I'll add is, we've only been at like, we'll probably do this for like 20 more minutes and give you all a break. The personal income tax thing that's been floating around everywhere, social media, I know Delegate Espinosa has been taking a few hits on this on social media. Can you get some clarification on what you all think could possibly happen here and how it could affect the county revenues?
Sure, we'll be happy to. And, I guess maybe just give you a little background. You referenced a recent media report that, seems to suggest that there's this plan out there that's going to basically cut everything in the state. And that's simply not the case. As I think many of you know, just through conversations, as Majority Whip, and the same thing takes place over in the Senate, we routinely ask our members, or try to gauge their support or lack thereof for various either pieces of legislation, kind of concepts, even components of legislation. And certainly it has been a goal of both the House and the Senate, and the governor has come out very, very strongly here, really over the last year, expressing a desire to the greatest extent possible. Let's try to reduce our personal income tax so that hardworking West Virginians can keep more of their tax dollars in their pocket, have the freedom to use those dollars as they wish, as opposed to depending on government bureaucrats to spend that money, for them. And so in order to do that, I mean, that's a pretty big item. If you're looking at eliminating the entire personal income tax, I mean, you're talking about something in the range of about $2 billion, which is not quite half our general revenue budget, the portion of the budget that we really, have some control over as far as allocating that revenue. And so as part of that process, again, we reach out to our members to try to help understand, what are some of the possible components? And, everybody has ideas. People will say, well, why don't you eliminate for this? And a lot of times we kind of have a pretty good idea that there's not support for a particular item. Promise scholarship, for example. While I have constituents contact me, not frequently, but often, I would say, they'll say, well, why are you still doing that? Why is the Promise Scholarship not a needs-based program as opposed to the program it is? Well, me personally, I like the Promise Scholarship. I think it's a nice reward for those students that are doing the right thing, following the rules. It gives them an opportunity to help out with their college expenses. But, that's certainly a ticket item that, particularly when you have a lot of new members in your legislature like we do. I mean, a third of our House members are new. And unless we ask them, where are you on this particular issue, whatever those issues are, we really don't truly know. We might have a good sense, but until we actually ask them, we don't know. And so that's really what you read about there. Although it was presented as, well, this is a final plan here. Look what they're doing. It absolutely not. It was basically a survey, a poll. What are the things that you could support? But most importantly, what are the things you won't support? What are the deal breakers? In your line of work there, Commissioner Stauffer, you got to know what the deal breakers are. What are the non-starters? And that's what we're really trying to identify. Not only for us, but also as we're talking with the Senate and also talk with the governor's office, we have to be able to tell them, listen, we've asked that. When they ask us, how about this? We could say, well, we asked about that, and this is where we were. It was a non-starter. So that's what we're looking at. We absolutely do not want to, enact something that's going to hurt the public. We want it to be a net tax reduction is what we're really looking for. We're not looking. While certainly there may be some value in transitioning from, let's say, the personal income tax, maybe moving more to a consumer sales tax or some type of a consumption tax. There are some benefits from that. Obviously, you have to take into consideration the fact that we're in a border county and what impact that has. And so that's what that process is about. And again, unfortunately, the questionnaire that we were working from with our members, it was disseminated in error to an unintended recipient. That recipient decided that they thought it was a good idea to put that out there, which again, those type of things happen. But again, it's something that we routinely do. When we were working with the comprehensive education bill that Chairman Ruppner was such a tremendous leader on, we went through a very similar process. What are those things that the various components, which are the things that you can support and which of them you can't support? We ended up passing that bill, the final bill, with 51 votes out of 100. So if we had not gone through that process, you really wouldn't know, where your members actually are. So that's the process. But, obviously before we embark on that, there will ultimately, hopefully, I'm optimistic that we'll actually be able to enact some meaningful tax reform. Ultimately, there's going to be a bill and everybody's going to get a chance to weigh in that. And obviously that'll be done transparently and everybody will have a chance to weigh in on that. And that will be part of the process. So hopefully that provides a little.
No, good. I appreciate the clarity because a lot of stuff floating around certain aspects, social media and otherwise, completely untrue essentially. I mean, it was more of an eye-catching piece, I think, that maybe I saw in others where this is normal course of business trying to gauge members in your party. So.
Absolutely.
It's very typical,
They can pick this up here. You don't even need that.
So that's not second anymore. I was going to ask you
So
about that.
Delegate Espinosa has the tough job of having, 77 members that, as a whip, he has to determine, what their stands on. The Senate does have a much easier job, but we do the exact same thing. When we're working on a bill, and especially a complicated one, we have to get the input from our members. What are their thoughts on it? And we don't all see eye to eye. I have to tell you that in terms of personal income tax reduction, I am 100% in favor of trying to find a way to get it done. It is the one major thing we have not been able to do in the last years that I've been in the legislature, some meaningful tax return to our citizens. So I have to say that I consider it super important, especially because of the fact that we already have in every way tried to make our state more attractive, to get folks to come here. And fortunately here in the Eastern Panhandle, we are seeing growth, unlike most of the state. I'm sure you can appreciate that we can't carry the entire state. So we really need to do something to help bring folks back into West Virginia, to help bring jobs into West Virginia. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing is off the table in our goal to try to bring some meaningful tax relief to those who live here in West Virginia and reward folks for staying in West Virginia. That's another thing. I have constituents who have moved out of the state just because of the personal income tax. You know, frankly, that's not what I want to see. I want to see folks coming into the state, moving here and staying here.
I think it's very well understood that sadly, because of our population losses, West Virginia is one of the few states in the country that's actually experiencing a decline. You know, we're going to lose one of our three congressional representatives. There's other impacts as well and so forth. And so somehow, you know, we need to stem that. And that's really been a big focus really since our party has taken the leadership position in both the House and the Senate in the governor's mansion, is to try to the very best we can, try to stem that loss. I mean, the last thing we want is to continue to see our young people and others, you know, have to leave West Virginia for opportunities. And so these are tough things to do. Ultimately, will there be tough decisions we have to make if we're going to move forward with personal income tax reform? Absolutely. You know, if it was easy, it would have probably been done years ago. But again, it's something that we're absolutely committed to working as hard as we can to provide some meaningful tax reform that will hopefully provide incentives. Is it going to be a silver bullet? No. I mean, that's why we've enacted tort reform. We've enacted regulatory reform, where each and every year they come back before Chairman Rucker's committee with our state regulations and look at those periodically on a regular basis now, because of legislation we enacted. We have to review that periodically. We've obviously enacted some very meaningful public education reform, and I can't wait to get down to Charleston and provide our parents and students even more opportunities, more choices that, you know, I think the pandemic has demonstrated they desperately need and deserve. But the one area, as Chairman Ruckers noted, that we really haven't done as much so far, and part of it's been because of some of the economic downturns that we've had, is tax reform. I'm very pleased that we were able to enact legislation to begin to phase out the state income tax on Social Security. Obviously, that was a success, but still, that is probably the one thing that you know, we still haven't really touched that much, and probably it's because it's very hard to do. But we are taking a very serious look at it, and again, I think we're going to try to come up with the best proposal we can that will ultimately provide net tax reduction for West Virginians, and again, hopefully try to spur, you know, additional economic growth and development, so that there are more and more opportunities for our people to stay here as opposed to leaving.
I firmly believe that any reduction that we do to the personal income tax is going to directly benefit the area I represent, Jefferson County, for sure. I mean, we already have a lot of benefits, but we start reducing that compared to Virginia, Maryland, and all our surrounding states, and we're going to look pretty good.
You should see the property values increase too if you have no state income tax, because people are already pouring over borders, you would think, to take advantage of that. I mean, we have a lot of states that border West Virginia, except Tennessee to the south, per se. They're the only ones that have no income tax. Everybody else does. It's significant in some of them. I think it's a good idea. Hope you guys can get it done. There's one last thing too that Nathan wants to mention. You did a change for the annexation of municipality stuff. I think there's another segment of that we want to look at, potentially seeing if you guys can take care of that too.
Yeah, and Senator Rucker did a lot of work to change West Virginia Code 865 regarding annexation of of property within a city's urban growth boundary. And, she tried very hard to get that done, and she did. And I note in Senate Bill 751 last year, you also tried to change 864A. And I would just like to encourage you to go ahead and make that attempt to change that section again, the same way that you introduced it last time. Because unfortunately, what has happened is 865 now tells you to do one thing, and 864A tells you to do a different thing, and they collide now, they don't make sense. In our annexation case that we had in front of the Supreme Court with Charlestown, the Supreme Court basically sent it back to the circuit court here and asked the circuit court to try to figure out a conflict, and then the city of Charlestown ultimately just dismissed the case because it wasn't resolvable, I don't think. But, and I know that was not your intention,
No.
and I know you tried to
I
make both
did.
changes, but for some reason, it didn't go through the,
I caught it after it left the Senate, and I tried to reach out to the House, I think it was Governor that the bill
Yeah.
got sent to, and tried to get them to amend the bill, but unfortunately, it just got buried too many things. The chair just didn't do it, and so it didn't get done. So that's why I introduced 751, and then tried to, quickly get it through, but, you just run out of time sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to do that.
okay,
I will let you know that municipalities in this county have reached out to me and asked me to, also clarify a few more things,
okay,
because they still face that issue of having holes. So of course, I've met with them and I'm willing to listen and talk to them too. But whatever, we end up doing, I'm happy to share with you guys so you can give me your input on, and hopefully we'll get it through. As Delia Espinosa said, it's going to be a question of time. So it definitely would not be one of the first tier of bills, but hopefully we can get it through the second tier.
yeah, and I can see by this legislation that you tried to do both things, and only one thing got done. And I get that, in the mix down there, sometimes it's hard to get everything through. But this one thing definitely needs to be fixed, and I would be happy to see any other suggestions.
As I recall, I think that legislation might have, at least the one that was dealt with the shoestring annexations. I thought that might have gone through our political subs committee. I'm sorry, I'm using lingo.
It did.
It was political subdivisions. Correct me if I'm wrong, Delegate Clark, you were assigned to political subdivisions, were you not, or am I mistaken?
No, I'm not. I'm on the Veterans Affairs Commission. But you're right, it does go through the Political Subdivision Committee. And I am a supporter of amending that bill. So if you need help with it, definitely.
I will share with you, I just I want to try to, be fair to everyone, but yeah, no matter what, we definitely. And I can tell you that Senator Maynard, who is our chair of GovOrg, where that bill would go through, he knows about it, and he actually put it on the agenda. He put something on the agenda, but he just ran out.
So I guess, I don't want to hold you all here too long. We've almost spent at this an hour. Anybody have any last comments or things for our delegates, or do delegates have any last things they want to say?
Robbie Martin is our new chair of political subdivisions. He's a relatively new delegate, but I'm trying to think if he's a city councilman perhaps in Buchanan, West Virginia. So he'll be a great, he kind of knows a lot of these issues and so forth. So I think you'll find him to be a good person to work with and so forth. So be happy to work on that.
This bill would essentially be a cleanup bill. So hopefully it would just go through. No, thank you very much for this opportunity, like always. And, I know Stephanie knows to reach out to me. You'll pretty much, I think all of you have my cell. Just contact me anytime. It's going to be a fun session.
At the risk of bringing up an issue that we escaped, Senator Rucker, did you have an opportunity to tour the state morgue over the last?
No, I did not.
So
Sorry.
myself and Chairman Householder, Majority Leader Summers, a number of us had the pleasure to tour our state morgue over the last couple months. And I will just say that, well, first, let me be very clear. I think our staff at that morgue is doing their very, very best to cope with less than ideal conditions. And so I will just say this, that I know that's an issue. I actually raised that issue while I was meeting with them. But I can assure you that whatever issues or challenges we're having here, they're multiplied, multiple fold down there. So it's something to where our leadership is very cognizant that we do need to provide some additional resources and facilities for our state morgue. Hopefully, if we can get a handle on that, and it's going to take a significant investment to get a handle on that. Hopefully, then we can maybe talk about some issues. But I can tell you just right now, there's no way they can take on additional responsibility. As difficult as it is for what you're dealing with here in Jefferson County, I mean, it is just a very tenuous situation. Again, it's amazing. I think they've got great leadership. They're doing their very best to manage through it. They caught up a lot of their backlog, but it is just what they are being called upon to do in the limited facilities that they have. It's amazing that they have been able to address their backlog. So it is an issue that we have become probably more familiar with than perhaps I would have liked to be. But it was definitely an eye-opening experience, and recognizing that the challenges are just not here. They're in Charleston as well. And hopefully, if we are able to address that, perhaps then we can turn our attention to trying to address some of the issues that you're experiencing.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't bring it up because we were so tight on time.
Sure.
But thanks for looking into that.
Anything further, Delegate Clark? Very good.
No, I just want to point in regards to the personal income tax, however, whatever, if we do, I think Jefferson County has to be prepared for seeing a lot of our housing developments that have slowed over the last few years suddenly start picking up in regards to their completion process, because we are going to see a heavy influx of people moving in from our bordering states if things do go the way we would like to see them in regards to the personal income tax issues. So other than that, I appreciate you guys having me on. You all know if you need anything from me, just where to find me. If I'm not down in the legislature, I'm over here on the golf course, so just pop in and talk to me.
Rough life. But no, again, I appreciate you all joining us today. Thanks for everything. It was a great discussion, and best of luck at your session.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
And if you guys need anything from me or any information,
I don't think there's any other business to come before us today, so au revoir.